Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bouk and Zoobie show on the world famous LIR.com, 92.7 LIR.com, and now for the fourth time on YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zubie. So we're going to continue this is an extension of the Super Bowl show because, like the 49ers, we blew it on discussing the coin flip.
We just screwed up in the overtime. So yeah, this is the overtime of the Super Bowl show where we did forget to talk about that item you just mentioned. So that's how we are at Bouk and Zoobie, right? We're honest with our, when we screw up, we're the first ones to say it, right?
Yeah. So what did you think about that?
Well,
Did they mess
fun.
up?
Yeah,
Did they
well,
mess up?
yes, of course they messed up. So the bottom line is you definitely go second. You never would. Why in the world would you want to go first? Because obviously when you go second, you get to go for it on fourth down. So I think the argument maybe they would make is that their defense was tired, so they wanted to get their offense on the field, and that would be their only reason why you would do that. But I don't know. I don't know if Shanahan has addressed this or they've really gotten on him on this. But yeah, it's really just the first year of this new rule in the playoffs, and you definitely want to go second. There's no doubt about it. So again, sorry folks that we didn't discuss it, but in the end, it was, in my opinion, pretty obvious what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure you heard that the 49ers fired the defensive coordinator. Absolutely
Right.
fired. And
Yeah.
it was a pretty lame reason, like they're saying, oh, he doesn't fit, he doesn't fit into what we want to do defensively. I'm like, they seem to do pretty well this year defensively.
Yeah, I think Shanahan's a bit of a funny guy. His dad was kind of had that reputation. He's a prickly guy, pretty much I'm the boss, and everyone else's opinion is secondary. Yeah, for his first year on the job, he did a good job. They obviously went to the Super Bowl. Their defense played well in the game. Yeah, it's interesting with Wilkes because he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals for 1 year, and now he's 1 year and out here. It will be interesting to see what happens with his career going forward. He's obviously going to probably get another job as the NFL is the constant rotation of coaches. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a strange situation out there. And I mean, I guess it's the classic scapegoating, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if that's a distraction for Shanahan. But I think it just, so they don't talk about his decision making. But in the end, they played well enough to win. And there's no question. They just basically, they shot themselves in the foot and they made some terrible, the terrible special teams plays. And that's what did them in.
Kansas City, they actually have the NFL film on it. And when the 49ers decided to take it, they were all jumping up and down on the sideline, especially Mahomes. They said, they want it. They want it. Let them take it. They had some great sounds, a lot of good audio for that Super Bowl.
No,
Very
I haven't.
interesting.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So it's always,
They were very confident. Oh, they were really, they were overjoyed that the 49ers, you know, actually reacted that way with the coin flip.
it was
Really
a
happy,
strategic
especially
error.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mahomes was very confident. I'm like,
Well,
okay, let him have it.
he's smart. Well, he's smart. They made a strategic error, and Mahomes is smart. I think his intelligence is extremely underrated. I mean, the
Yes,
guy is
yeah,
just a tremendous. I mean, he's gutsy. He's got poise, but he's also really intelligent too. And he's learned over the years to take what the defense gives him. So that will conclude our Super Bowl coverage. Unfortunately, the parade had some issues, which was obviously a terrible situation. And unfortunately, these young kids, they go to these events and they think that okay, we're going to have an argument, and I'm going to pull out my gun. I mean, It's not you're in a public area, guys, and they'll pay the price. We'll never find out anything about these guys because they're juveniles. So maybe a few
Well,
years they will.
they actually arrested 2 adults today and charged them.
Oh, did
Says,
they arrest 2 adults?
yeah,
Okay, so we'll
yeah,
definitely find out who they are. Okay,
yeah.
I missed.
And one thing, can Kelsey get some type of common sense or some type of manners? Why would you, knowing what happened at the parade, and then to go to a bar and just celebrate and just, first of all, he's drunk at the parade. Second of all, he went to another bar and they have pictures with him right after finding out about the shooting and acting like a complete idiot. And he thinks that donating $100,000 to the victims it's going to make up for his image. Man, his image has taken a real hit. I mean, his public relations people must be very, very upset with him the way he's been acting. He's been acting like a total idiot, real
Well,
idiot.
I mean, his brother also, he had his right, his took his shirt
Yeah,
off at the game. His wife told him to put his clothes back on. I mean, yeah, these guys unfortunately hitting the bottle a little too much. You hope none of them, either one of these guys actually has a problem. But it's like you kind of have to act your age eventually. They're both past 30. It's not like they're
yeah.
25-year-old kids. So
It's
you figure by
true.
that time, that doesn't mean you don't have a good time, but taking your shirt off at the game in the luxury boxes, and it's just, it is. I guess that's the image they have, and they're gonna maybe that's a good thing. But I didn't actually see that reaction from him. But yeah, definitely a sad day that someone lost their life celebrating a great moment in sports.
Yeah, and uh, before I forget, so we were both debating about what if it was turf or regular grass. It's regular grass.
Okay, yeah, right.
Uh, this was the first year that they gave it to a different person than our old friend and old man that was taking care of the grass all these years. The person who actually uh, installed this and reinstalled it and testing out everything, the man's name is Nick Pappas. So it takes a Greek to ruin a field, huh?
There you go. So there's always a Greek tie-in on the Bouk and Zoobie show. So as I mentioned, we'll move on from Super Bowl coverage. We will be having our NFL offseason preview. Actually, looks like it's going to be March 5th, 2 weeks from tonight, where we're going to discuss free agency. That is the last day that the teams can designate a franchise player. And we'll go through the list of free agencies, the needs for the locals. So it's going to be a local show. And we hope to have a fan from the Giants on to discuss the Giants, because the big news for the Giants is that they are definitely going to be moving on from Saquon Barkley, not going to, according to the reports, not going to franchise him again. He will be unrestricted free agent. He will get a lot of interest. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Oh,
So
100%.
right. So as
100%.
much as the NFL has devalued running backs, you still need one. So I'm telling you, John, this list, I've seen the list before the franchise tags. I mean, there are a lot of guys, and there's going to be tons of cap casualties. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason for both the Jets and the Giants.
Well, I mean, you already saw the Jets, who they're actually taking a $15.8 million dead cap hit. Dwayne Brown, Carl Lawson, Quentin Jefferson, and Whitehead gone.
Yeah.
And that's a big. I mean, they got rid of all those guys, but at the same time, they took a $15.8 million hit.
Yeah. So as
It's
always,
it's dead. It's dead money. It's dead
it's
money.
dead money, right? But they obviously can re-sign any of those players, but that usually is an indication that they don't plan to. Quentin Jefferson has value for them. Whitehead is their starting safety. There's definitely room for improvement, but the bottom line is that's a huge hole going into the offseason. But like I said, we're going to get into that more. And then just, obviously the Bryce Huff story, which Bouk and Zoobie ahead of the
Yeah,
curve, way ahead of the
way
curve,
ahead, way ahead.
said that the Jets would not re-sign Bryce Huff. It looks like that's going to happen. I think I said that, week 6 or 7 during the season. So not a happy moment to be right about that, but that's just the way the Jets roll, and as they roll out of control. But one thing about the Jets, and we'll definitely not waste much time on them today, but I just heard something today which was comical, John, about the backup quarterback situation. So this is going to be so overplayed for the Jets. Obviously, they need a backup quarterback, but the reality is still, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, the Jets are in deep trouble. So it's not the biggest part of the offseason, but as always, quarterback, it's easy. Everybody knows quarterbacks. So one name popped up today, which I'm still laughing about, and it would
Uh-oh.
have to be via trade. Sam Howell from the Commanders. I don't know if you saw this. So
No,
I
I
was
did
just
not
like, I
see
don't
that.
know who makes this stuff up. I have no idea who makes this stuff up. But this is the season for how many stories can we make up. And when I saw that one today, as opposed to saying it's obvious, like Jacoby Brissett would be available, seems like a very logical guy, and as a pure backup. But the Jets are not trading for Sam Howell. So whoever made that up, I give him credit because some people were talking about it in the Jets X world. So that
Wow.
was kind of the comedy of the day. And like I said, I just feel like that's going to be kind of an overblown story because let's face it, we don't want to see this player play. So if that cannot be your biggest move if we're never going to see him. We don't want to see him.
Right.
So,
That's
and
right.
hopefully we won't see him, and Aaron Rodgers will actually play 17 games. But we'll save that for March 5th, John. More on the Giants, like I said, with the Barkley situation, and then free agency itself, right? I think it's it was March 13th, the following week. Oh no, the
Yeah,
11th, right? The
the
11th. I'm sorry,
11th is the
tampering
whatever
period. The
tampering period, but the actual signings can start 4 p.m. on the 13th.
Right. But ultimately, so our show on March 12th will be about free agency because I would expect both the Jets and the Giants to make some immediate moves on March 11th. We'll talk about that on the 12th. So we're pretty much
Do
set,
the
John. Yep.
By the way, do the Jets? We have to mention Jimmy Garoppolo since he got caught PED. Obviously, they're going to cancel his contract. They want out of that deal. I mean, he could not have handed. I just wonder the IQ of these players. They have to be some of the dumbest people alive. Jimmy Garoppolo had one of the most absurd contracts, overpaid contracts of all time, and he goes and ruins it. It's amazing. He gave them an out of this
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah, no,
Amazing.
he would be a great backup for Rodgers. The problem is he's suspended for 2 games.
Yeah.
Can the Jets go into the season with a backup who's not going to be available for the 2 games? That means their third stringer would have to be able to play if Rodgers went down in week 1 or 2. It seems like it's just too risky, John. So I think Brissett is the kind of the most logical target. He's definitely going to be available. And I think he's actually a perfect backup for them, meaning that he could play if Rodgers was down for a long period of time. So, like I said, John, I just feel like this is going to be an over-discussed situation because of last year's fiasco. But bottom line is they will be bringing somebody in.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, One thing I know we normally don't talk about college football, but I have to tell you, I was impressed with the deal that the playoff system that the college football has every year. That they actually signed a 6-year extension. This is with the 12-team playoffs.
Right.
1.3 billion a year for 6 years. So they got a $7.8 billion. I didn't realize that they were able to get this amount of money for college football? What kind of ratings do they get to get paid this amount of money?
They get huge ratings. College football is right behind the NFL, John. It's right behind the
Wow.
NFL. It's right behind it. College football is right behind it. So I know, our show, we don't talk about it a lot because the tri-state area really doesn't have college
We
football
don't have
teams.
anything.
They
Yeah, we
really
don't have
don't.
anything.
Rutgers tries, and I give them credit for trying, but so that's why we don't talk about it. But yeah, from a popularity perspective, so yeah, so they're going from 4 teams to 12. Thank God. They only had that in place for a couple of years. That's why they extended it. They had to drop the Pac-12 is no longer going to be around, so they had to drop them out. So now there's 5 conferences, the power conferences. They get the automatic bid, and there'll be 7 at-large teams. So I think it's going to be a huge success. So yeah, college football, and that's why they're paying the players, John. That's why they're doing
Huge.
it, because they're making so much revenue. It actually carries pretty much the whole athletic budget for these schools. So
100%.
hey, something. It's how the world goes around, John. I don't begrudge it. So ESPN thinks they can do it, and it's going to work out for them. They're probably going to be right.
And, aside from just to end our football segment, even though this person was only a player for 1 year, but and it really doesn't have anything to do with football, but I think I had to bring him up. The passing of Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed.
He did play college football. Is that your connection, right? He was a college
He
football. He played in the
no,
NFL. He played in the
he
NFL
played
too.
for the Raiders for 1
Yeah,
year.
1 year. So he played in college too, obviously. I
Yeah,
didn't even know
yeah,
where he went. So
yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
did.
I want to ask you a question again, totally aside from football and college football and everything.
Okay.
What was your favorite Rocky movie?
Oh, Rocky won.
You
I'm a
liked Rocky
traditionalist.
one?
100%.
Oh,
I'm a traditionalist. Yeah.
my favorite, Rocky 3
Rocky
with
3. I know a lot of people like Rocky
Mr.
3, right?
T,
Right.
with Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
I thought that I
No, I'm not.
listen.
I don't.
The
I don't
first
disagree.
one was first one was fantastic, but I thought number 3 was the most entertaining one. The fourth one with the whole Russia, United States thing.
What did they end
Yeah,
up with? Like, was it 6? Did it go to 6, or
it
did
went
his
to it
kid?
went it went
Did
to
it,
6.
didn't his kid fight or something? Wasn't it that?
No, no,
No.
no. No.
Or was Apollo's son, or it was what happened?
Apollo's son. Yeah. Now they're continuing. They're calling it Creed. So now they're up to
Oh,
number
right.
3 number 3. But
They're
no,
up to,
the last Rocky movie, as far as I'm concerned, is when they were showing. I don't know. They had like a video game. You know how they used to have the Ali Marciano who would win between the two, like a
right.
computer. So they had Rocky against God. I forgot the boxer's name, and he was getting so frustrated. He goes, "Listen, I'll do an exhibition with him. Let's grab him into an exhibition." And they show him, with the heavyweight champion that's about 20 years younger than him, and he's like 50 years old, and they're getting beaten up in an exhibition, and that was the final. That I consider that the final one. It wasn't bad, but it was really unrealistic. Yeah, you're going to ask a guy that's in his 50s to go fight a guy that's in his 20s in an exhibition, and it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous ending as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah, no, it
anyway,
was no. That was sad. No, it's yeah, Carl
all
Weathers.
weather.
Well, yeah, no, because Rocky was one of those transcending movies. Was it 1976? I want to say the
Yeah,
original came out, and it was just a feel-good story. And who will ever forget? My favorite scene is when he goes up and he's Carl Weathers is in the hotel room with his team, and his trainer is watching the TV because it's like a local news coverage, and they got Rocky in the meat
yeah.
locker, and he's like beating up the side of beef, right? And the agent, not the agent, his trainer looks at it. He's like, look at this guy. And he's getting worried, right? That he's like, this guy is beating up the meat. So I always just love that scene. So anyway, I'm always a sucker for the original.
The one thing I will never forget is, and I could, my brother, I still can't believe that he ever did this to me. So he goes and sees Rocky 2 before me. And I said, I don't want you to tell me anything. I said, how was the movie? It was great. It was great. You got to remember, he was younger. I think, what was he, like 10 years old at the time? It was great. It was great. At the end, Apollo and Rocky fall down at the same time, and Rocky gets up and wins. I'm like, oh my God. I said, he destroyed the entire movie for me because I knew the ending. Oh,
Yeah. Well,
I will
you made
never
a
forget
mistake.
him doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You made a mistake by asking. So anyway, so where do you want to go? I guess there was, if we look at it from what was the largest event in the tri-state this past week, where it ended up being where the Jets and the Giants play. But of
Yeah.
course, the Jets and the Giants weren't playing, only their stadium was the host for the big Ranger Islander game, John. And I'm going to have a little different take on this than most Ranger fans, but I'll let you start. What was your thoughts from watching that game?
Well, and don't forget the Devils and the Flyers
Yes, they
played the
played the night
game.
before.
And by the way, with that Devils and Flyers game, I was surprised that they drew 70,000 people for
Yeah,
that game. And for the Islanders Rangers, it's close to 80,000. They were like a couple of hundred short of 80,000. I mean, that's tremendous for the NHL. And actually to have it back to back days. I
yeah, it
think
was
that was the
great.
first time. I think that was the first time that they have ever done that.
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. Um, the I was a little surprised by because the Islanders really needed that game much more than the Rangers, and you
Sure.
would think that they would be a little bit more careful with the penalties. I mean, they were ahead by 2 goals with 4.5 minutes to go, and to have the penalties, it was stupid. And I have to say, the Rangers were pretty gutsy. Having the extra man on ice too. Those were gutsy moves. They,
Yeah.
I mean, they went all out to make sure that they'll tie that game. So, uh, I could look at it as the Islanders blowing it, but then the Rangers actually taking it from them with their aggressive play and their aggressive coaching.
No,
That
absolutely. Kudos to Lavalette for doing that, because at 4 minutes to go, down by 2 goals, and they can ice the puck. When you're killing a penalty, they can ice it, so they have a free range to get it. They put the
Yep.
pressure on, and they did it twice. So yeah, kudos for the Rangers to come back and win. But I think personally, the overreaction. Now, it was a great event, and it's great for the NHL. It shows the NHL is a very popular sport, despite the fact that it still struggles with TV ratings. But it's more of just, again, it's one of these sports that it's the ultimate sport where it's so much better live than on television, and that's always something that I don't know how they're going to ever overcome that, but it does show that there's huge demand for the NHL. People love these outdoor games. I hope they continue. But as a Ranger fan who's focusing on winning a Stanley Cup, this game to me is just kind of what I'm worried about. Because if you really look at the numbers, and this is with the Islanders as well, this is unbelievable. In the overtimes, which if you look at the NHL overtime, it is really a skills competition. It's 3-on-3, and then it's a shootout. 3-on-3 is not real hockey. It's not. It's
Hmm.
not. I shouldn't say it's not playoff hockey. There's no doubt about it, and it's not real hockey anyway. But when it comes to playoff hockey, which of course in the playoff overtime, guess what? It's 5-on-5 or 6-on-6, of course, with the goalie. So I look at this game and the statistics. If you look at the numbers, the Rangers are now 8-3 in overtime games.
Hmm.
And the Islanders, John, this is incredible. They are 6 wins and 14
Yep.
overtime losses. They
Yep.
have played 20 overtime games this season. That the difference between it's unbelievable. So the Rangers have lost 3, they still get the point, and the Islanders have lost 11 more of those games where they only got a single point. So if you look at that, the Rangers are way ahead of the Islanders, but still, it would cut the difference more than in half between the Rangers and the Islanders.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm,
I'm still worried. And don't get me wrong, great win, great comeback, really exciting. But it's still the Islanders are a non-playoff team, and the Rangers had to do that to come back and win in the overtime in the skills competition. So to me, I'm still worried about the Rangers in the playoffs. So that's where I sit, and until we get there, we're not going to know about this team.
and one thing there's two things I want to comment. The camera work on the Rangers and Islanders game was fantastic. That was the closest cameras that I've seen in a long time in a hockey game. They were really close to the action. I loved it. It's not your usual where you feel like you're in the upper deck of a hockey. They were right there. I don't know how they had the camera where they were positioned. They must have had it like almost like on the sidelines because
Well,
that
there
was
was
really,
no, yeah, there was no seating around the rink. So when they
yeah.
play these stadium games, I don't know how it's interesting because you're right, it was better, significantly better. But yeah, it's weird that they couldn't like they don't make like mini places to sit along the ice, right? You would think they could get portable stands in there, benches to get more people right on top of the ice. But yeah, I guess that improves the TV coverage and they had like all the VIPs, right? They were having those ridiculous interviews, right, with the Jets and the Giants
Yeah.
players, and
Yeah.
and they were like right there, right? They were like right behind the play. I mean, talk about awesome! But it was
Yeah.
obviously in a regular hockey game, there's people there, but you're surrounded by other people. They were like literally on this bench, right, right behind the action. So, and you could tell the NFL players are legitimately like loving it because they're there live. So it's like you can never do this, but you just want to get people to live hockey, and if you get them in the arenas and they see more of it, they're gonna love it. And that's it's amazing, John. I mean, they filled that up, man. They had more people because the Jets and the Giants didn't get close to filling those stadiums up. There's no show galore there. So yeah,
And
good
they
news
and
for the NHL.
and they were certainly very loud. I mean, the one thing that
Yeah.
was equally as loud were the Islanders uniforms. I mean, those ridiculous uniforms, and I didn't particularly like the Rangers uniform. My wife actually liked both of them. I'm like, what are you kidding? I said, it looks like a clown show with those uniforms. So,
I kind of like the Rangers. I thought the Rangers were pretty good, but yeah, the Islander uniforms, those were horrific. I mean, a little imagination. I mean, they aisles in that blue on blue, and had a little orange, and yeah, I agree. I agree. She actually liked
I she liked actually both uniforms, and I'm like, the Islanders uniform is awful. It actually reminded me of a baseball uniform I had one time. Yeah, it was like a George Costanza move where they gave us completely black uniforms in the middle of the summer. The
them.
hottest uniform I've ever worn in my black and with orange, sort of like the Islanders. It reminded me of that baseball uniform I used. It's like, oh yeah, I never forget that one summer wearing that black uniform in August.
Right, right. So the other story, because I mean the Devils, like you said, they filled it up. The Devils are a threat, and as a Ranger fan, I'm hoping they don't get in. I think they could be a big problem if they get in, just like Florida last year from the eighth spot. So yeah, it's we're going to have playoff hockey in the tri-state, no doubt. The Rangers will be there. The Islanders and the Devils got some work to do. The Islanders got a lot of work to do.
A lot.
So they're in a bit of trouble.
But at least they got the All-Star game for 2026.
Is that what happened? Okay.
Yeah, the Islanders are getting the 2026 NHL All-Star game, first time since 1983. So congratulations to them. I think who was it? I think it was Dennis Potvin that announced it.
Yeah, no, he had a lot of fun there too, and the Ranger fans got the boom again. So I think he's actually he's learned to kind of deal with it. He gets it. So it's as one who always did not like Potvin, it's out of respect, John, because the more hate you have for an opposing player, it's based on their ability, unless they're like a
Yep.
cheap shot artist. So
Yep. Yep.
anyways, which Potvin was not. So yeah, no, the Islander fans are. It's a tough one. They had those glory years. Now we're old enough to remember and you remember because growing up, we grew up together, and the literal almost brawls between the Islander and the
Oh,
Ranger fans
oh.
uh, all the time. And I'm so, being a Ranger fan growing up in Nassau County, I mean, how dumb am I? I mean, it's unbelievable. I could have pocketed those 4 Stanley Cups, but I got one. That's it. So hopefully we can make it 2. The Islanders might be stuck on that 4 for a long time because the NHL
Yeah,
winning the Stanley Cup ain't easy, right?
it's very difficult, especially with the playoff system that they have. So many rounds. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So
no,
many
it's a
different.
playoff sport. It's not even, it's a new season, second season. Can't wait. It's going to be great. We'll be talking a lot about it. Hopefully we'll have some guests talking the NHL. I guess we could take a quick drive over to the other winter sport who was on a little bit of a hiatus. That embarrassment of a game. I mean, it's like I think the flag football game is the NFL is more
Oh,
entertaining than
yeah.
garbage. Now, I did not watch 1 second of All-Star Weekend, I must admit. So, did you? I saw some of the highlights. McClung won the slam dunk, even though he's not in the league. But he does have great hops. I'll give him that. And then, did you watch any of this stuff? Did you watch the game?
Well, I just watched same thing like you highlights of the 3-point shooting, the last round between Curry and what was her name? Ionescu is her
Right,
name,
right. You're right, right.
and she was shooting from NBA distance. So I was impressed.
She's
If
tremendous. Yeah.
if Curry did not hit, I mean, she was going to beat him. He barely beat her. And Kenny Smith, sometimes he could be such an idiot. He's saying, why doesn't she shoot from the WNBA line? And Reggie Miller's saying, what? You're saying that she can't? I mean, they were arguing between each other. It was an insult to that. I mean, that young lady, I don't know who she is.
Hmm.
Beautiful shooting. I mean, really, form, everything. And like I said, Curry had to really pull it out because I didn't know that he won. And I'm watching, I'm like, wow, he has to get these last 3 shots in if he's going to beat her. And he did. But
Well, John, the Bouk and Zoobie show, we're going to have to start having a WNBA segment because I think it's Sabrina. It's Sabrina, I think. She played at Oregon. I remember her in college. She plays for the Liberty, the New York team in the WNBA. But yeah, nobody watches the WNBA. But she's a tremendous shooter, completely legit. Caitlin Clark, who's the star in the college level at Iowa, she's legit too, John. I mean, she's legit. She can
yeah,
play, and she's got range that you cannot imagine. So, it's one thing. Women's hoops from when we were younger to where it is now. I mean, they are so much better. We've talked about it a little bit how I like women's basketball because they play below the rim. It's a different sort of game.
that's right.
Personalities are rough, so I'm more of a college basketball women's. I watch that, but the pros, I can't take it. They want to get paid like the men. It's not enough. It's about how much revenue you bring in. That's
That's
all that
right.
matters. If you
That's
bring in
right.
the revenue, you're going to get paid. You don't get money based on not bringing the revenue in. So
That's right.
anyway, yeah, Liberty gets a shout out in the Bouk and Zuby show. So as John mentioned, we are on our 4th YouTube show, and we really appreciate everybody watching us now. And I just want to encourage people to subscribe to the show. It helps us. Liking episodes, it helps us. We talked about the comment section. John, we didn't get any comments yet, but we're going to keep on asking for comments. I think it's a lot of, especially in our age group, it's like, how do you do it, right? Scrolling to the right spot. So I'm just happy that people are watching. We're building a little audience. I just want everybody out there to understand that this is a word of mouth show. So the more people you can tell, if you like the show, please tell other people. And we're going to continue to do it. We're having a great time doing it. And it's still available on Spotify.com as well, and on the world famous LIR.com, 927 LIR.com. So as always, we always appreciate the radio station. Help getting our names out there, and also listen to the music. I do it all the time when I'm driving, so I don't even people, it's great. You get minimal interruptions and you get the old tunes from the 80s. So please listen and join that website. I shouldn't say join, go on that website, enjoy the music.
Yeah, and the music that we listen to when we talk about the 80s or new wave, the this generation actually, if you look at these reaction, they call them reaction videos. There's so many young people that are discovering this music, 70s and 80s music, and they're saying, wow, we wish we had music like this today. And they openly say it. It's pretty funny. I've been watching a lot of these react. I don't know why I got hooked on this all of a sudden. Maybe because I was sick or something. But it was funny to see their comments and how they started moving to the music, and they say, "Wow, did you hear that voice? Wow, did you hear? This is without auto tune," and it was great. It was great to see. So for the younger generation that's listening to this show, actually go to the LIR website. You could hear more of that great music. It's really great music. We had a great time with it,
Yeah.
especially we used to actually dance to this music. Can you imagine that? We
Oh,
danced
wow.
to this every weekend.
I don't know if I went every weekend, John. You were more the regular than I was, but
Yeah.
anyway, so definitely continue to support the show. We really appreciate it. So, John, where you want to head now? I did wear my. I guess it's. I don't know if it's in the screen. I wore my
Maryland.
Maryland Terrapin shirt. There's Fear the Turtle, Testudo. There is a great story about Testudo. So I can't really talk about it on YouTube, I don't think. But Lefty Driesell passed this past week. He was 92, lived a great life. Was the head coach at Maryland when I was there. Um, this is the days when we used to get to the game. They opened the doors like 2 hours before the game. So it's not like Duke where people literally sleep out like all semester. I don't know if people realize that kids sleep out all semester so they can go to basketball games at Duke. But we would do our rush in before the show, I guess it was 2 or 3 hours. I think it was 2 hours before, sprint down, and we sat mid-court pretty much every game, 5 or 6,
Wow.
rows up,
Wow.
and yelled at the left-hander constantly for his inept game coaching. So Lefty was a great recruiter, recruited some unbelievable players, had one of the best teams of all time that never actually played in the NCAA tournament back in the days when only the conference champion got in. That's the famous, was back in whatever was early 70s. When David Thompson and NC State beat the Tom McMillan, John Lucas, Len Elmore team, and that was Lefty's best team. They didn't even make the tournament. So unfortunately, Lefty's reputation at Maryland was that he could never win the big one. They only got to the Final Eight once, I believe, in his career there. Never made the Final Four. We had so many good teams. And of course, we had one of the greatest players of all time who never played in the NBA, and that's a great Len Bias. When I was at Maryland, I was lucky enough, John, to watch Len Bias play over 50 times live. Was at probably the greatest game that he ever played at North Carolina, where I actually drove down, John. You'll love this story. A friend of mine had a buddy who went to North Carolina. So it was a Thursday night game, and he's like, I'm going down there. He's got a couple tickets. You want to go? And I'm like, oh, that means I got to blow off school, not only Friday, of course, because the Thursday night game, but we got to leave early Thursdays. I had to blow off 2 days of school. Well, that says a lot about my academic career, but we drove down to North Carolina. We sat,
Wow.
I think, about 5 rows from the top in the Dean Dome, in which they still play there today. It was the first defeat in the history of the Dean Dome for North Carolina. Len Bias and Maryland beat North Carolina. And this was not when Jordan was on the team, actually. But anyway, so that was one of the, it's a famous where he still, the replays, they still show it where he like stole the ball and he dunked it backwards, and it was right at the end of the game. I'll never forget it. We ran down to the court after the game, and it was just such a great moment, and such a tragedy when he died. And I mean, it was transformational for me as an individual person. I mean, you love this guy. He was just like the greatest, and for that to happen based on just making just a dumb decision, and it destroyed Lefty's career at Maryland. He eventually got fired because of that. Because let's face it, it was back in that era in the 80s. School was a lot different, and Maryland was a lot different back then than it is now. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that, and and I feel bad in the end, John, because of all the times I really did. We screamed our heads off at Lefty, and he always did this thing where he stomped on the seat when he got PO'd at the officials, right? So he was a character. And he also recruited Moses Malone, and Moses Malone ended up going straight to the NBA from high school,
Right.
so he never got to play in Maryland. So anyway, rest in peace, Lefty.
Yeah, and you mentioned Len Bias. People don't remember that he was drafted by the Celtics. And imagine if the Celtics had him on that team. Oh my God, they would have been unstoppable. I mean, they would have had championships so many years in a row. And that was in '86, where Bird and McHale were still good.
Yeah, no, they had somehow made, I don't, I should know the details, but they had made a trade to get that pick, and they had the second overall pick. He was actually not picked first, and Brad Daugherty was. That's a good trivia question.
Right.
Who was
Yeah.
picked in front of Len Bias? And Larry Bird told Red Auerbach that if they drafted Len Bias, he was going to go to rookie camp. That's what he had told Red, and they took him, and he died, I think, 3 days after they drafted him. So anyway, I know it's incredible how many years ago that was, right? So just showing how old I am. But anyway, enough about the sad stuff, John. So we could talk about more sad stuff, because when it comes to the NBA, the Knicks, I mean, thank God for this All-Star break. This is like the biggest break for them, because I assume some of these guys are going to be back, right? What do they play again?
Yeah.
They're playing
on Thursday.
They're playing this Thursday. Today is Tuesday.
Right, 8-day break. 8-day break.
So they need
the expectation is Hartenstein will be back, DiVincenzo will be back. They're definitely not getting Anunoby back anytime soon. He'll probably come back in the middle of March. They're being very quiet about Randall. I don't know what they're doing with Randall at all. Robinson, they're trying to get him back before the playoffs. So there's only 27 games left. So these are pretty important games. And the last couple of games, they were really undermanned. I mean, you saw it. They were playing their hearts up, but there's no way that they could continue having two of the G League players coming off the bench and trying to play. That's the reason why they were in the G League. And
right. That's a lot there.
Yeah, that's a lot there. So to have only actually 7 guys available, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So and who do they play first? Is the 76ers. I mean, they have some important games now, really important games that they need to win. One thing before I forget, we'll keep it short with the NBA tonight, but Jacques Vaughn ended up getting fired by the Nets, which the Nets are just, I don't know why they're not firing Sean Marks at all. How is this guy keeping his job?
Whew.
Look at it, how many coaches has he fired already? He's fired 3. And the funny thing is with Vaughn, they just signed him to a multi-year deal last year. So you fired him halfway through the season this year. I mean, it's crazy. And you're lucky you have a billionaire owner to eat his salary for a couple of years. I mean, Vaughn says, okay, yeah, you want to fire me? Fine. He's collecting his money. But
I think the owner is part of the problem there, though. So that franchise is a mess. They are
it's
a
it's a
absolute.
real it's a
It's
mess.
really. I don't know. They should move back to New Jersey. I think, John.
Yeah, well, the Bucks are not doing much better under Doc Rivers either. I mean, they're 3-7, and there's already rumblings already from the Bucks how they don't like the way he's coaching. I mean, they're already complaining about him. What was wrong with Griffin? What was wrong with Griffin? He was 30-11. You fired a coach 30-11. I the players have too much power in this league. Too much. Way
Yeah,
too
not
much
the
power.
problem. But I do want to give you a quick kudos before we shift out. The Cavs, you mentioned them, and they are. I just look at the standings, right? Second best in the East. So you did mention that. Plenty more to come. Knicks are in good situation. They got to get everybody back. So yeah, no, I think playoff time in New York, tri-state, it's going to be pretty good, John. It's going to be good.
Well, and your man Lowry actually ended up signing a contract with the 76ers. Kyle
Yes, I did.
Lowry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's a gamer. He's a gamer.
That, that
He's
pain
a
in the
guy
ass
that.
is back. I was hoping he was going to go to the West. That pain in the ass is back again.
No, he is a pain in the neck, no doubt about it. So you got anything else from the NBA?
No, that's it. That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, it's time, folks, on the Bouk and Zoobie show. Every week, this is our new, it's not really new. We've been doing this for a while now. So I think a lot of people look forward to this because they don't have to pay attention to this sport because we've got baseball with Bouk.
Thanks, Paul. So I'm sorry to continue with the bargain basement Mets, but I have to keep coming back to them. They just can never leave us alone with their stupidity and their cheapness. There is no way, I could honestly say to everyone, there is no way they are now signing JD Martinez. Why? Because we got good old Luke Voigt signed to a minor league contract and G-Man Choi. And
There's a platoon.
they actually paid him $3.5 million if he makes it to the major leagues. G-Man Choi. Okay, let's put it this way. If you're going to give the youngsters time to play, if you truly want to give Vientos the opportunity to be the DH, give him the opportunity. Don't sign a Luke Voigt. We could have used Luke Voigt last year, to be honest. We don't need it. If you're going with this youth movement, then guess what? I'll be happy. Give Vientos a chance to be the DH. Give DJ Stewart a chance to be the DH, okay? Stop bringing these guys in. This was a joke. This is another joke on the Mets. And Stearns keeps smirking away. I can't wait for this baseball preview. I can't wait. And by the way, we were talking about Alonso last week. So, as you know, you knew the writers were going to start at every single question in his little media day with them was about his contract. And the Mets, he says the only time he has spoken to the Mets is when he was going to arbitration and they had to agree on that $20.5 million. He says that they have not approached him at all about an extension. What kind of, and he was flat out, he goes, listen, we're willing to listen. And they said, would you be willing to negotiate during the year? He goes, yes. What are the Mets doing? What are they doing? I said it last week. Tell us you're going to sign him or tell us you're going to trade him. You got to make up your mind because I already see it on his face. He says it's not going to let him affect him. It's going to affect him because he's talking about it already. You watch what's going to happen. It's not going to be an Aaron Judge type of year for him. That's, again, my opinion. But Anyway, I want to talk about former Mets that were signed. I got a kick out of how many of these losers we had that are now signing with other teams. So I have no idea what the Blue Jays are doing, but they signed Daniel Vogelbach to a minor league deal. They signed Eduardo Escobar to a major league deal. I'm astonished that Escobar actually ended up getting a contract from someone. Um, Robert Gazelman, your favorite pitcher that you used
Oh
to
my
love, the Nationals signed him to a minor league contract. The guy's still around. If he makes the major leagues, he makes $1 million. Robert Gazelman. Then you have the famous Steve Nagosic. He also
God.
signed with the Nationals, minor leagues. Gary Sanchez, however short of a time he was with the Mets, signed with the Brewers for one. He actually got $7 million. Can you
He
believe
did.
this? Guy was almost out of baseball. Um, you also have Dom Smith. You talk about someone's career went right down the dumper.
Mhm.
Minor league deal with the Cubs. I
Wow.
mean, you talk about someone that just went off a cliff.
So it was a sign a Met like week, right? Is that what it was? Like sign a ex
It,
Met?
it's Kevin Pillar, even though he was with the Mets a very short time, minor league deal with the White Sox. Same thing with Mike Moustakas. I mean, all these players. I mean, the deal that I was surprised about, which the Mets could have actually used him, was Ahmed Rosario. You talk about someone's value that's gone off of a cliff too. The Rays just signed him today, 1 year, $1.5 million. I mean,
Wow.
that's a great signing. The Mets could have used him, right? Instead of having this guy Zach Short or Joey Wendell, I would have rather had Ahmed Rosario for $1.5 million.
That's amazing. That's somebody to watch. That's real. Did he have that bad of a year last year? I know he
No,
didn't.
no, it wasn't that bad. No,
Yeah.
he was with the Indians. They knew
Right.
he
Right.
was going to be a free agent. They traded him to the Dodgers,
Right.
and he was a part-time player, but still $1.5 million. The guy still has speed. He can hit. I was stunned with that signing. A couple other signings that, again, I don't know what the Mets were thinking. Whit Merrifield, 1 year, $8 million with the Phillies. That's a guy's a good player. I mean, he's older, but he's still a solid player. Randall Grichuk, 1 year, $2 million. Guy hit 16 home runs last year. I mean, I'm telling you, some of these players, I'm shocked with how little that they're getting with their contract. I mean, they're waiting things out. Uh, even Snell now finally got another offer from the Yankees. I think he overplayed his hand because that original offer was a great offer for him. I don't know what kind of offer they've given him now, but the Yankees have made an offer. If the Yankees get Snell, that'll be a tremendous move for them. They need pitching. I looked at their staff again. They need pitching desperately, that team.
I think I
Desperately.
saw the Snell. I think they had said 35 million a year for like 3 years. It was a short-term deal, so which is still a huge amount of money on an annual basis, right? What is this guy
That's all.
look?
He
Sorry,
wanted
folks.
he
I
wanted
mean,
200 he wanted 30 million a year. He wanted 30 million a year for 9 years. He wanted 270 million. And the Yankees originally offered him, if I'm not mistaken, 5 years, 150 million. They gave him 30 million a year, and he turned it down. I'm like, he's not worth that. Montgomery is actually, I think, a more reliable pitcher than he is, and he's going to get a lot less than Snell. So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
mean, some
still, both of those guys are still out there. So most of the other bats, though, besides JT Martinez. So is there any other bat of note? Like, I guess there's going to be some people falling through the cracks, but uh,
uh,
JD's the biggest name left, right?
yeah. Well, no, and you have Bellinger is still
Oh,
out there.
Bellinger still. Right. Okay.
Bellinger. One thing we talk about former Mets. So Justin Verlander, here we go, shoulder injury. He's way behind. He's going to have to sit out a couple. He's not going to be starting opening day. And one thing that you fans have to know, if he doesn't pitch 140 innings this year, the Mets are going to be off the hook for $17.5 million. That's because if he hits 140 innings, that means his option for $35 million automatically kicks in, and the Mets have to pay half of that. So for those of you who are rooting against Justin Verlander and hoping that the Mets can actually save some money sometime this century, you have to root for that. Another thing, former Met, not a good thing, is Lenny Dykstra unfortunately had a stroke and is in the hospital recovering. Again, I hope Lenny does well. I hope he feels better. Strawberry actually said he spoke to him and visited him, and he says that he actually recognized me. And so we'll pray for Lenny Dykstra. You know, whatever he's done in the past to himself and to his body, you know, you just don't want to see someone like that have a stroke.
Of
You know,
course.
I mean,
No.
it's
You know,
really
he did commit some fraud too. So, you know, he hurt some people. Not that he deserves anything like this. So, yeah, no, definitely sad, but he's kind of lived a crazy life. So, you know, we'll obviously, hopefully he can recover. So one funny thing, actually, right before we came down to do the show tonight, I was watching the weather on CBS Channel 2. It's the only thing I watch now is the weather. I can't even watch the news. But then they have like the premiere, the promo for the sports, and Steve Overmeyer comes out and says, and the Mets, you know, coming up on spring training report, the Mets believe they have an elite outfield. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, it's, you know, Channel 2, who cares what they're saying, but elite? So the outfield is right now, I know this can change, but we've got Nimmo in left, Harrison Bader in center, and Sterling Marte in right field. Is that accurate at this point?
That's correct. That's correct.
That is correct. So that is, I don't know, again, these people elite. I mean, these legends elite. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But John,
Did they
that's
say
not going to
elite?
cut it, John. That is how in the world are the Mets going to compete? This is 2 years in a row they're going to do this to us. Have this absolutely inept outfield again, just because they're moving Nimmo to left. Oh, come on.
Maybe they meant elite defensively. You know, they've been raving about Marte that he was clearly injured with his groin injury. They
Right.
watched him in a Dominican league. He's running around normally. He's actually a very good outfielder. Harrison Bader, if he doesn't run into a fence or you know hurt his
Right.
shoulder or something, is an excellent center fielder.
No, they are good
Nimmo,
defensively. Right.
Nimmo will be okay in left. I mean, he used to
can
play
cover
left
ground.
before he played center.
Yeah.
He could play a decent left field. Like I said, when we talk about our baseball preview, there are so many ifs with the Mets because Stearns is saying, yes, we're a playoff team. You're a playoff team if everyone has their normal season, they don't get hurt, the pitching, if Severino, again, I'm going to keep saying if Severino pitches well, if Jose Quintana can pitch well. I mean, there's just so many ifs on this team.
Well,
It's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. And again, for Met fans out there, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're not signing anyone of substance. I was hoping and praying, and then when I saw the G-Man Choi and I saw Luke Voigt, I said, yeah, we're done. There's no signing. JD Martinez could be $1 million. They probably wouldn't even sign him. It's ridiculous. And they like to say, oh, they have multiple purposes. Really? G-Man Choi could only play first base. And Luke Voigt, if he could, I mean, he's lost some weight now. It used to be his belly used to get in the way if he tried to bend over at first base.
yeah.
But they're saying, oh, yeah, he's going to be a backup to Pete Alonso. Come on, man.
He's probably he's not going to.
And it's not a good look if you're going with youth. You're basically saying to Vientos, we're waiting for you to fail. That's a lot of pressure on him. Give the kid a chance. If he muffs it up, and if that's the way you're going, it's okay. Let him work it out. Listen, Alvarez started off slow. Then he
Right.
started to get hot. Then he slowed down again. You got to let these kids play if that's what you want to do.
Of
And it
course.
looks like, and it looks like that's the way they're going to go. But
Yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're committed to that, stick with it. He deserves at least 200 at bats. You have to give him time, and he's going to have to play against righties and lefties. None of this platoon garbage. Let Vientos be the DH, and not this other. These guys are just, let's face it, they're borderline major leaguers. So yeah, no, we're definitely. I don't know when we're going to do our show, but we'll definitely do the under overs. I have not looked at the numbers. I can't wait to see what they put in the Mets on. It's probably it still could be a move or two that will change that number.
yep. And one last thing on baseball, and you knew about this pitcher, Don Gullett from Cincinnati Reds, and a couple of years with the Yankees, passed away. And did you know? I didn't even realize. I knew he was young when he retired. I didn't know he retired at 28 years old. He retired at 28 years old.
He came up really young too, I believe,
Yeah,
right? He was,
yes, he did. Yeah, I
and he
mean,
had,
his
yeah,
overall record was 109 wins, 50 losses, 3.11 ERA in that era,
right.
where you had all these top teams, top players hitting, all these Hall of Famers that he had to pitch against. He got injured when he came to the Yankees. I mean, he had that one good year. I think he was like 14-4 or something. But he
Right.
retired I didn't realize he retired at 28 years old. Wow. Yeah,
Yep.
good pitcher.
Another
Good pitcher.
R. So yeah, we got a lot of art. Rest in pieces on the Bouk and Zoobie show. So yeah, no, we're looking forward to the upcoming calendar. Like I said, NFL off season coming up on March 5th. The baseball preview will probably be that mid-March, late March. We haven't set a date. Maybe we'll have a guest. So we're looking forward to those shows. So as always, on the Bouk and Zuby show, we end the show, or most of the time at the end of the show, with the rant of the week.
Thanks, Paul. So, St. John's. Let's talk about the St. John's. I still call them the Redmen, but they're known as the Red Storm.
The Storm.
One of the most frustrating college teams that I have seen I had such high hopes for this team, especially with Rick Pitino as coach. Such high hopes. And there have been so many games this year. I believe what I read in the paper is they've lost 8 out of 10 games. And out of those 8 games, they've led at halftime in 5 of them. If you look at the teams that they've lost to, and they were all close games, every single one of them were close games. They lost to Marquette by 1. They've lost to Connecticut by a couple of points. So many close games. But the topper was really this last game against Seton Hall. A 19-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the half before the first half was over. And I saw them, I was saying to myself, I didn't like the way that first half ended. It was whittled down to 12 points. And I'm like, they better come out that second half, because as those of you who have been following St. John's, they somehow, right before the first half, they let up. It's always like 3 minutes to go. It's really weird. Like with 3 minutes to go, it's like, okay, we have this big lead. They lay back. And then when they come out to the second half, they're not, it doesn't even look like they're prepared to play. The other team has so much more energy, so much more aggressiveness. And St. John's all of a sudden just lays back. And I have to say, I don't blame Rick Pitino for what he said, because exactly what I have been saying all year about those players, he finally said it, what we were all thinking and what we've been all talking about, that they're lazy on defense, that they don't, no lateral movement. I mean, some players should not be out there. How this kid Ludlam is even on the court. I mean, this supposed great scorer, great rebounder. What was he at Harvard, Paul? He was at
Yeah,
Harvard.
yeah, he played
Yeah.
the for 3 years.
Well, he certainly didn't go there for academics because he has to be one of the dumbest players I've ever seen. He really does not think on the court. And would you guys please stop trying to back people down? Because every single time you guys are supposedly backing guys down, they steal the ball from you every single time with him. Between him and Soriano, another guy, cream puff. I've been saying it all year. He's a cream puff. And I think Pitino has finally realized, I'm trying to do the best I can. He even said, rather than going over statistics because that's what he's been doing, that he needs to motivate them more. And I agree because they always come out, I don't know, somehow they almost look like they're losing when they come out in the second half, rather than saying, okay, we have to go for the kill. I don't blame him. I really don't. I just, the only thing that I think he did incorrectly was start talking about the St. John's facilities. Listen,
Yeah.
you know that those were the facilities that you were handed. You can't blame the university for that. You knew what you were walking into, and you know that they're trying to fundraise money. Why are you? He actually picked on
Yeah.
St. John's, the university,
Yeah.
which was a big mistake in my
Well,
eyes.
well, John, I think he, in his own mind, that's a little greasing of this, right? Of the skids of like when you want to get out. So I think he put that seed there where he realizes now that it's going to be hard for him to compete, even in his own conference, not to mention nationally, when it comes to a facilities perspective. And also playing that game at UBS Arena, I don't understand that one. Did they get a good crowd there? I mean, I guess you could argue it's the
9,000,
same.
9,000. That's it.
Right. So it's so funny because obviously that arena is closer to the university, but you still have to drive it. It's not like that. It's still not convenient.
No.
So that was a little bit of a weird decision to play Seton Hall there. Unless they think like if they played at the Garden, there would be more Seton Hall fans. I don't, maybe there's
No.
some truth to that, but
Well,
uh,
no, I think there was I'm not sure.
it was a
There may have
conflict.
been yeah, I think there was a conflict. But the thing is he made the comment about UBS. It was pretty funny earlier because they have not drawn there at all. They draw very well at the Garden, as you see. I mean, the games that you went to, I went to, were
Yeah.
pretty well attended. But at UBS, it's been 7,000, 8,000. I mean, you figure Seton Hall would have gotten more than 9,000. I mean, you saw a lot of empty seats there, a lot of empty seats. Um, I think that St. John's may have overestimated. Okay, we've got Rick Pitino, therefore we'll draw wherever we go. Well, it's the same thing that we always say. We need wins. We need wins. You can't say, oh, we were close enough. And listen, St. John's was very close in all of these games. These were all very close games, but they still didn't win them. And they're gonna say, well, we have two more games with Georgetown. We have one with, I think they have,
Yeah, that's Paul, right? They have a lot of
yeah,
winnable games, but they have to win the Big East tournament to get in.
yeah,
That
yeah,
game against Seton Hall, they had to have that game. They had to
yes,
have it.
yeah,
They are going to the NIT. There'll be some big names in the NIT. Maryland will be there. UCLA will be there. Arkansas, I think, will be there. There's a lot of big name schools that are really having bad seasons. So I think Pitino, if he can do well in NIT, is actually a little more important than your typical team that goes the NIT. Most of the players are so disappointed they don't make the tournament, and now they don't even play the Final Four of the NIT anymore in New York, right? So
yeah, yeah,
it is that's another story in itself. But taking shots at the university was totally uncalled for. I can understand getting on the players, but this is the team he put together, and it was a short period of time. But yeah, I think this definitely puts some uncertainty into the long term for Rick Pitino with St. John's because he's 71, I believe.
yeah, yeah,
He may want to go someplace else So it's going to be interesting to see what jobs open up, and we'll see where he ends up.
The bad thing about all this is he needs 3 more wins to match what Mike Anderson had in his last year. Can you believe this? 3
Okay, there
more.
you go.
He needs 17. He had 17. And the players that he allowed to, let go, like the Pasha Alexanders of the world, are doing actually very well with the teams that they went
Oh,
to.
yeah.
So
The other kid,
he may have they may have made a miscalculation, because you can't put and I you have to put some blame on Patino and his guys that did all
sure.
the drafting, but they made all these guys sound like super duper stars, these great scorers. And great scorers for what? They can't play. They don't know how to play defense. I love Zubulake for. Again, when he's out there, it's a different story when it comes to toughness. Why they're not playing him more? They actually started him over Soriano.
They did.
Um,
I know, but
and
he's very limited offensively. So
or not
he's limited.
defensively, but defensively,
Right.
he
But
has
John, they
toughness.
I find, again, I've mentioned this before, is that offensively they go into these droughts, and
Yes, they do.
RJ Lewis thinks he's an outside shooter. This kid should be driving to the basket every
Correct.
time. Never
Correct.
ever take an outside shot. Dingle is got no outside shot.
Yep.
So they're just limited. They're just limited. And you're right. They definitely lost a few good players that went elsewhere to have done well. So yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting offseason. I expect them to be back, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if he does something crazy, because, like I said, he's not getting any younger. Anyway, great rant, John. So another great week of talking sports, and the NFL's gone, so some people are sad, and maybe they're going to stop watching. But we hope people still want to, follow what's going on with the Knicks and the Rangers, and college hoops, March Madness, and of course the NFL offseason, which is always fun. So let's wrap it up, and we'll talk to everybody next week.
All right. As always, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners. Thank you for watching us, and keep the feedback coming. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you next week.